And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Saturday, February 17th, 2024. And if you'd like additional weather information on top of what I provide in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left and tabs for the various territories. And the reason I put this in the show is just to help people become aware of all the services and information the Weather Service provides across the country. We are responsible for the official forecast and warnings for everywhere in the nation. And you can click on anywhere in this map. It'll pull up a localized forecast with any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories. A quick check of the map on this Saturday afternoon. We have a few winter weather advisories lingering here in the Great Lakes, downwind of Lake Erie, as well as Lake Ontario, parts of northern Michigan. Back to the west, the most notable feature is we have a series of storm systems moving into California. Winter storm warnings for the Sierra Nevada. 2 to as much as 4 feet of snow could fall later Sunday night through early Wednesday. 2 to 4 feet in elevations above 7,000 feet. There are wind advisories, flood watches for some heavier rainfall that could lead to flooding. Not quite as strong a system as what happened a couple weeks ago, but nevertheless another in a series to impact there than the West Coast. In Alaska, we still have some areas holding on to sub-zero temperatures. Along the northwest Arctic coast this morning, it was 21 below zero at Point Lay. Aquasuk was at 20 below, and then in the eastern interior, Northway was 17 below, and the co-op station at Chicken bottomed out at 30 below. Otherwise, it's not been as cold, though we may be returning back to some colder weather here toward the end of the month and the beginning of March as the pattern shifts out. In the meantime, blizzard warnings remain in effect into mid-Sunday afternoon for the Bering Strait and St. Lawrence Island. Gusty winds, maybe 2 to as much as 6-7 inches of snow could fall there between now and mid-afternoon Sunday. And then there's going to be a push of moisture come into the west coast and western interior Monday through Friday. That's all part of a very strong low that crossed the western Aleutians. This low produced a wind gust of 75 to 80 miles an hour at Shemya in the far western Aleutians, and there were 40-foot seas in that area as well with that powerful storm that bottomed out around 950 millibars. And as I mentioned, the pattern is going to flip around. We're going to start to see some Bering Sea lows and then North Pacific lows moving up into the Gulf. This is going to bring more precipitation along the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle the latter part of this upcoming week, which will end up turning the pattern colder as colder air is drawn down from the north across the mainland, especially centered on the southwestern portions of the state here to end of the month of February and start March. Taking a quick check there, north side of St. Lawrence Island, Savunga, light snow and some fog. That should pick up along with the wind temperature at 7 above. Haisley, partly sunny, some breaks in the clouds there early this afternoon, 12 degrees. This area, though, as we go along Norton Sound, the Seward Peninsula, lower Yukon Delta, we're going to see that moisture with the system that's currently in the Bering push inland Monday into Wednesday, and that's going to provide more snow and blowing snow to these areas of the west coast and western interior. So I would expect in these areas several inches of snow early in the upcoming week, along with some sort of winter weather advisories or perhaps even winter storm warnings. Kodiak Island getting some light rain and fog. There is currently some moisture lifting northward across the western Gulf. Temperature there in Kodiak City is 42 degrees. Juneau, mostly cloudy, not as sunny as it has been the past week because that big ridge of high pressure is breaking down. 39 degrees, and we had temperatures as warm as 56 on Friday afternoon in the southern panhandle at Heidelberg for the state's warmest temperature yesterday. A quick check of what's going on in the Alaska sky for aurora or sky viewing. We had a series of CMEs, coronal mass ejections, that were forecast to maybe trigger a geomagnetic storm or two here in the middle of last week around Valentine's, but that never materialized. The energy from that missed the Earth by and large and didn't spark any notable auroras. And we're expecting through this weekend, if there are any auroras, they'll generally be of the quiet form, kind of that greenish glow with maybe an occasional wave or curtain, but not like what you get when you have things agitated by a bigger solar disturbance. We experienced first quarter moon on Friday, so now we're in the phase of the waxing gibbous moon through this weekend and into next week, and then the full snow moon occurs next Saturday morning, early Saturday morning on February 24th. Looking at advisories, watches, and warnings, we have the winter weather advisories for blowing snow here along the northwest Arctic coast, Point Lay down to Point Hope. Winds could gust as high as 40-50 miles an hour out of the northeast, and that could lead to areas of blowing snow and visibilities reduced to or a bit below a half mile. Along the northern and western portion of the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait area down into St. Lawrence Island, blizzard warnings will be in effect at least into middle Sunday afternoon, and periods of snow, 2 to maybe 6-7 inches of snow on the high end, and strong gusty winds could create some periods of blizzard conditions there, especially tonight into Sunday morning. And then this area highlighted in the lighter blue indicates special weather statement for the moisture that's going to be coming in. The low that's sitting right now out here in the southwest Bering front arcing ahead of it's going to push moisture into the western coastline and into the western interior Monday through Friday, and this could bring a round of notable snowfall and blowing snow again to these areas. And then eventually there's going to be moisture and systems coming up in this direction across the Gulf, and I anticipate along the Gulf Coast, especially the northeastern Gulf Coast and the Panhandle, could get some heavier precipitation starting late Wednesday and especially Thursday into Friday of next week. So get ready. The pattern will become more active and heavier precipitation in this area as we go through the latter half of the upcoming week compared to this previous week where we had the big high in place, a lot of clear skies, outflow winds, things like that, warm temperatures, especially the southern Panhandle. That's going away. And looking at the satellite imagery on this Saturday afternoon, there's still a hint of high pressure here over northwest Canada, but it's just not nearly as strong as it was. And we still have, coming up along the west coast, a flow of moisture, but here's the powerful low that was down around 950 millibars, produced wind gusts 75 to 80 miles an hour at Shemya. And then also high seas in the vicinity of the western Aleutians, forecasted sea heights were around 40 feet. So that was a pretty impressive storm. And looking at the way things are this Saturday afternoon, there's the low coming up. It's definitely begun to fill 973 millibars. Another low down here in the North Pacific, well south of the Gulf, is not really going to do a whole lot of anything. It's going to weaken. And then these troughs that have been lingering along the northwest coast and Bering Strait as well as the southwest coast, those will stay in place. The high pressure systems here across northwest Canada, not nearly as strong as they were last week. And then for late tonight into Sunday morning, we have that low sitting out there. It's kind of steady state. It's not filling fast. If anything, it might even dip down a little bit. 968 low, but gusty winds, storm force winds around that still. The occluded front arcs ahead and will eventually just kind of wash out. And then we have the other low down here in the North Pacific, south of the Gulf. There will be some moisture increasing along this trough, working its way up along the western into the northwestern Gulf Coast, and still some areas of lighter snow along the northwest coast, Seward Peninsula into the southwest coastline. For Sunday afternoon, the low out there remains right around 970, 969 millibars, just north of the western half of the Aleutians. The initial occluded front begins to weaken, and then we have the other low filling out here in the North Pacific with a weak trough extending northwestward up into the Gulf. And for Monday, here's the beginning of the hint of the pattern change. The low that's out in the Bering will move a little further east, north of the central Aleutians in the lower central Bering Sea, but impulse of low pressure lifting northward. This formulates a bit of a warm front that's going to work up along the western Gulf into south central. This could help push temperatures in Anchorage back up around or a bit above 40 degrees. So this will be another warm, milder push of air coming up into south central. And eventually, too, this moisture is also feeding into areas of the southwest and west coast, and will spread inland as we go through Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday. So looking at temperatures, readings will stay above freezing. The outer portion of the Panhandle tonight, a bit below freezing for the inner channels and especially the north. 4 above Glen Allen, Gulkana areas, not as cold as it's been, above 0 at least. Temperatures 20s Anchorage Bowl. And then temperatures Sunday afternoon should be in the 40s to even some 50-degree readings like Klawak Craig could be 50, 52, into the 40s, up low mid-40s, Juneau up to Skagway. Above freezing in Anchorage, Talkeetna 37 over at Valdez. So we have at least milder temperatures to speak, and those will continue to go upward. Lows Monday morning may not dip much below freezing in the Anchorage area and across the Kenai Peninsula. Temperatures also generally above freezing in the Panhandle, with the exception of the far north or any elevation around some of the coastal mountains. And then temperatures Monday afternoon, Anchorage forecast high 41, 42, pretty easy to reach that with that milder southerly flow. And we see temperatures 43 at Seward and Kodiak City. So definitely kind of like happened early last week. We're going to get another little thaw. Still cold temperatures along the Arctic coast and North Slope. Pockets of cold temperatures, the Yukon Flats and Northway, Chicken, 17, 20 below again. And as we go into Sunday afternoon, temperatures remain below zero, North Slope and along the Arctic coast. Temperatures may start to moderate here in the lower Yukon Delta with that front approaching. Again, Monday morning lows below zero, North Slope along the Arctic coast as cold as 14, 15 below at Gavik. Still below zero, Fort Yukon down through Northway. And temperatures Monday afternoon could see readings getting back up upper 20s to near 30. But again, we're going to have that moisture spreading inland along the west coast, which will lead to more periods of snow and blowing snow. So stay tuned for potential advisories or warnings as that moisture works its way inland, and I'll update that in tomorrow's video. But looking at the southwest interior, teens, as you go up toward the middle Yukon Valley, up toward McGrath, 14 degrees. Temperatures near or slightly below freezing out here across the Aleutians. And Sunday afternoon, warmest temperatures will be back here, the upper portion of the Alaska Peninsula, King Salmon, 41, 43 at Kodiak City, 38 to near 40 Dutch Harbor. And then Monday morning, we anticipate temperatures to be in the 20s because of cloud cover and precipitation spreading inland across the southwest and western interior. And temperatures near freezing for lows Monday morning. For the Aleutians, Monday afternoon, notice though temperatures do bump upwards here in the southwest interior. We're having that southeast to south flow of milder air coming up again, much like happened early last week. Maybe not quite the moisture plume coming in across the Alaska Peninsula, but the moisture will be displaced a little further north, coming in off the Bering into the western coastline and interior. So temperatures to end out February, the 23rd through the 27th, we expect temperatures to average below normal across a good portion of the state, especially maybe areas along the Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, and then along the northwestern Bering Strait area. But this is more notable. Look what happens here for the very end of the month, February 25th through March 2nd. There's going to be some really cold Arctic air trying to push southward again and just overspread much of the mainland. So there's the high probability we're going to see a return of below to much below normal temperatures and even cooling down there across the Panhandle. Now, starting out, precipitation later, say late Wednesday into Thursday, Friday of this upcoming week, there's going to be pretty good moderate to heavy precipitation here along the northern Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. Hence, that's one of the reasons you're seeing the above normal projection for precipitation here. Eastern interior along the Alcan border and for the Panhandle. And then as that really cold air settles in across much of the mainland, especially centered here on the southwest quadrant, air is going to be colder, drier, northeast northerly flow. So that's drier. We expect below normal precipitation across the northwestern into the southwest parts of the state. Still could see precipitation average a bit above normal along from Northway down along the Alcan border and across the Panhandle. But just get ready for a return of some colder temperatures after at least a briefly milder stretch of weather here for the last week, 10 days.